Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi, which is Nedarim, Daf Lamed Zayin. We begin on Lamed Vav Amud Beis, the fifth line from the bottom of the Amud. So we have a Mudar Hanoah. Shimon may not benefit from Ruvain in any way. Still, the Mishnah tells us that Ruvain may teach him Torah, provided it is not a service, which is considered Hanoah. And the question is, how does that work? So as Ran explained to us in the Mishnah, teaching him Torah doesn't constitute Hanoah because we know mitzvahs lav le'hanois nitnu. We don't classify them as actual Hanoah benefit. It's a spiritual experience which even a Mudar Hanoah can have from his Madir, from Ruvain the Madir. So the Mishnah tells us, Melamdoi Midrash, Halachos ve'Agodos. He can teach him all forms of Torah, Torah Sheba'al Peh. Midrash is referring to the Braisos, Mishnayos, Halachos, these are Halachos L'Moshe Sinai, ve'Agodos, these are the Midrashim that we have, Midrash Rabbah, etc. So Reuven may teach him these subjects. Aval lo yihlamdenu mikra, but not actual chumash. That is considered Hanoah. He's granting him something of value, something of worth. And the question is, what's the difference if it's mikra or midrash? Asks the Gemara. Mikra, my time lo yilamdenu. Why should Reuven refrain from teaching Shimon chumash? Mishum dekamahanile. Apparently, because he's giving him something. Shimon is having Hanoah from Reuven by learning that material. Well, if that's the case, Midrash Nami Kamahanile. Likewise, when it comes to all other forms of Torah, Midrash as well. That's Hanoah. Amar Shemuel. The answer is like this: we are speaking b'mokim in a community where they have the following practice: Shenotlin sechar ala mikra. They accept payment for teaching chumash. V'ein noitlin schar ala midrash, but they don't get paid for teaching other forms of Torah. Therefore, Reuven could go ahead and teach Shimon Midrash because he's not foregoing any pay. It's something which you don't get a salary for regardless. So it's just simply a spiritual experience, as opposed to when he teaches him Mikra and he's foregoing his salary. That constitutes tangible, physical Hanoah. He's getting a free lesson. And therefore it's considered as though Reuven gave him Hanoah Gashmius, which of course is Asr. So that's the difference between Mikra, which is something which is marketable, so to speak, something for which you get remunerated, and now by foregoing that salary, you are actually giving Shimon that pay. He's holding that onto that money which you would have to pay Reuven. So that's considered Hanoah. Whereas when it comes to Medrash, Halachos Agadis, something you don't get paid for teaching, Shimon hasn't received anything from Reuven aside from the actual learning experience, which the Ran tells us is a mitzvah. Mitzvah is lav l'hanois nitnu. We don't classify it as a Hanoah in terms of the, Mudar Hanoah Isser. Asks the Gemara, my Pascha, why is this so absolute? Why did the Tana assume that we get paid for Mikra and not for Medrash? Maybe the other way around. Maybe they get paid for Medrash and not for Mikra. Answers the Gemara Kamashwan, actually, by the Tana presenting the halacha in this manner, we will learn an interesting distinction. That for Mikra, one may accept payment, as opposed to other topics, Medrash, Halachos Agadis, Torah Sheba'al Peh, one may not accept a salary for teaching these topics. Hakamashmon, the Mishnah is teaching us that afilu b'makim shenotlin sechar, even in a community where they have a consensus to accept payment for teaching Torah. The Ran points out that in some places they didn't take payment for anything. Because if you take for one thing, which is mutar, you might take for the other thing, which is asur. So in some places, they wouldn't accept pay at all. But even in places where they do accept pay, you should know. Ala mikra shari lemishkal. For teaching Torah, you can get paid. It's mutar. Ala medrash lo shari lemishkal. As opposed to teaching medrash, which needs to be done for free. So again, that explains the halacha in the Mishnah. A mudar hana may accept a medrash lesson from his madir because there's no actual monetary value to that experience. You're not meant to take pay for that. As opposed to mikra, for which he's allowed to accept payment. When you go ahead and you experience that lesson from your madir, you are taking something which is worth money. Asks the Gemara, Maishno medrash to loy, why is it that you can't take payment for teaching medrash? To chsiv, the pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu was speaking to Klal Yisrael. Hashem instructed me at that time to teach you Torah. And then it says the pasuk again. Look, I have taught you the chukim, mishpatim, kasher tzivani, Hashem Elokai, just as Hashem has instructed me. Now, why this repetition? In the first pasuk, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu references the fact that Hashem told me to teach you Torah. So why do we need the same thing again? Look, Hashem, I've taught you the chukim, mishpatim, just as Hashem has instructed me to do. To do what? To teach you? He already told us before. Hashem instructed him to teach Klal Yisrael Torah. And the Ran points out, it cannot be that all he's saying is, Hashem taught me all these things. Everything that I've taught you comes from Hashem. It's pretty obvious. Because Moshe Rabbeinu, wasn't making things up. The pasuk says, "V'gam b'cha ya'aminu lo'olam." There's going to be perfect faith in the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu represents Hashem. He's not making it up. It's all from Hashem. So what then is Moshe telling them? Hashem told me to take money for teaching Torah? It's also unlikely. Rather, Moshe Rabbeinu is conveying a message to Klal Yisrael. When you teach Torah, it's one continuous link, one continuous uninterrupted experience. Hashem taught me free of charge. I taught you free of charge. Now you go ahead and teach your Talmidim free of charge. Ma'ani b'chinam. Just as I have taught you free of charge, av atem nami b'chinam. Likewise, when you go ahead and you teach Torah to your Talmidim, to your children, don't get paid. Re'elu madti eschem. Chukim mishpatim kashitzivani Hashem Elokai. Look, I taught you the chukim for free. And likewise, pay attention to that. I taught you b'chinam. When you convey, when you transmit that Torah onward, do it b'chinam. So teaching Torah is not meant to entail salary taking. And that's why when you teach medrash and halachas v'agados, it needs to be free of charge. Asks the Gemara, well, if that's the case, then what's the difference between medrash and mikra? Mikra nami b'chinam. Then teaching mikra, what else has to have to be free of charge? So why are we learning that mikra is something you can get paid for? And therefore, a mudar hana may not learn mikra from the madir, because if he doesn't take pay, he's actually saving him that money. Mikra nami b'chinam. Moshe Rabbeinu did not differentiate between this type of subject and that type of subject. It's all meant to be b'chinam. Answers the Gemara. When the Mishnah indicates that one may take pay for teaching mikra, it's for the following reason. It's actually not for the learning itself. Rav Amar Schar Shimur. We're speaking about teaching Mikra to young children. And young children need to be watched, to be babysat. The Rush says, you take Schar Shimur, Neutlen al Nedarim Ketanim Haloim de Mikra. Typically, it's small children learning Chumash, right? The Tosfos says, until 10 years old, they're learning Chumash. Once they hit 10, it's been Eser Shanam LeMishnah. So Mikra isn't necessarily the Mikra itself. It's the point that the children typically learning Mikra need to be looked after. And the Rosh says, L'shamram, to keep watch, to keep an eye on them. They don't wander around the streets. V'yaziku, and perhaps inflict harm and damage. V'yichanchu l'dvarim roim, and have negative exposure. So, the point of taking schar for teaching Mikra isn't for teaching Mikra itself. It's rather for the fact that you're watching the kids, keeping them safe and secure physically and spiritually. And for that, you can take money. That's Rav's approach. Rabbi Yehuda Amar, no. The actual teaching of Mikra allows you to get paid. You know why? Not for the actual text, but rather schar pisuk ta'amim. You can get paid for teaching them the tunes, the trup, what we call the tunes in the Chumash. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, the ta'amim, the tune, was not really part of the Chumash Minat Torah. It was added by the Chachamim, and therefore, for that, you can get paid. So back to the Mishnah. A mother may teach his mudar Mikra, Chumash, but not Medrash, because if he doesn't get paid for the Medrash, just the opposite. He can teach him Medrash, but not Chumash. He can teach him Medrash, because that's meant to be free of charge regardless. So by refusing payment, you're not really doing him much of a favor. He can't pay you in any case. Ma'ani b'chinam v'atam b'chinam. As opposed to when it comes to Mikra, if he were to teach a Mikra for free, he's giving him something. He's saving him the schar which he would have to pay. Why would he have to pay it? Either because it's schar shimur or schar pisuk ta'amim. So now let's go back to the Mishnah. Lo ya'amden Mikra. A mother should not teach his mudar Chumash. Why not? So this is good according to Rabbi Yehuda. A person can get paid for the tamim aspect of the mikra. That explains the Mishnah. Hainu, that explains why you can't teach him free of charge. Because you're foregoing your salary which you deserve. But according to Rav, the entire justification for accepting payment for mikra is because of the babysitting aspect. Well, here we assume we're speaking about a gadol. Gadol bar shimuru. The mudar is a shimon is a gadol. He needs to be watched and babysat. Answers the word b'katan katani. You're right. We're speaking about a small kid. He is the mudar. So Reuven made a neder against giving hana to Shimon, this child. You can't teach him mikra because you're entitled to get schar shimur, which you're foregoing, in which case you're giving him something. Hana, which is usher to him. And the Ran points out that although perhaps we don't have to stop a child from taking something non-kosher, but that's when he takes it himself. But you can't actually feed him something which is usher to him. Like in this case, teach him the mikra and watch him free of charge. Asks the Gemara, if the Mishnah is referring to a katan, Amos Sefer, what about the next halach in the Mishnah? Aval malamed as ban of mikra. You can teach the mudar's children chumash. Because, as we explained in the Mishnah, you're not actually giving the mudar anything, although you're alleviating him of his obligations. Something which he would have to do. That's just a roundabout benefit. It's not considered a direct benefit to the mudar. But the question is, if the mudar is a minor, katan bar banamhu, can he have children? Answers the Gemara, you're right. Let's learn the Mishnah as though it's missing some words, and you read it as follows. Lo ylamdenu mikra b'katan. He should not teach chumash to the katan, because he's entitled to schar shimur for looking after the katan, and that's considered a hana if he foregoes that payment. Now, im haya gadol, but if this mudar was actually a gadol who doesn't need to be looked after, he doesn't need to be shomer, malamdoi loy, so the mother can actually teach him the chumash, ulabanav, and actually to his son as well. Mikra, as long as it's chumash, he can teach him and his sons chumash. Why? He can teach him chumash because chumash is bechina, and he's a gadol. There's no shimur aspect here. And regarding the children, well, the children aren't really mudar hana from Reuven. And the fact that Reuven is teaching them and watching over them, that's just a residual grama hana to the mudar, to Shimon. That's not considered a direct granting of a benefit, and that's mutar. So bottom line is, in a general sense, just as Moshe Rabbeinu taught Klal Yisrael Torah b'chinam, likewise Torah is meant to be transmitted throughout the generations b'chinam, unless there's a special reason. Otherwise, like when it comes to mikra, according to Rav, you're babysitting as well. For the babysitting aspect, you're mutar to take payment. Rabbi Yehuda learns that the allowance is because of the ta'amim, the tunes involved, which aren't really part of the actual text. Now the Ran brings a Yerushalmi. There's another reality which allows payment. That's called schar batola. If a fellow is foregoing other work, other income to teach this Torah, you can pay him for that loss. You can compensate him for lost income. And certainly if a fellow dedicates his entire being to teaching and disseminating Torah, he's entitled to a proper salary, because he's not taking for the actual teaching of Torah. Rather, he's taking in lieu of ordinary employment, which he would have to be involved in, if not for the fact that he's doing Torah. We have the same concept in the end of Ksubas regarding a dayan. He can accept payment if he's actually experiencing loss of income due to the din Torah. It's not called bribery, it's not sheichad, it's schar batola, it's mutar. So we have two reasons for the heter of accepting payment for teaching chumash. We have Rav, schar shimur. We have Rabbi Yehuda, schar pisuk tamim. Means here comes a kash. The Brisa says, Ti noikos, small children, like koydem betchila b'Shabbos. On Shabbos, when they learn, they shouldn't be learning the material for the first time. Ela shonim berishon, but they can review the material even if it's their first time reviewing it. Like the Gemara figures at this point, what is the issue? The issue is sechar Shabbos, that a person may not accept payment for working on Shabbos. It looks like he's involved in business transactions, like mekach memker, and it's also midrabanan. So the Brisa says, don't teach them the material for the first time, but you can review the material even if it's the first time reviewing. Now, Bishlam Lamanda Omar Schar Pisuk Tamim. This can work very well according to Rabbi Yehuda, that he's accepting payment for teaching them the tunes of the Psukim. So that explains the Bryce. If it's their first time learning the text with the tunes, that's an issue. But that's real effort. That's a real job, and for that he can accept remuneration. He's entitled to a salary. And salary on Shabbos is also. So first time teaching is also, but the second time just reviewing it with them, that doesn't involve much exertion. For that he wouldn't accept payment regardless. They're already, familiar with the tunes. So that's mutar on Shabbos, because he's not expecting pay for that. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, payment is for the tamim. The Brisa is very well understood. However, according to Rav, payment is for watching over the kids' safety. What's the difference between whether it's their first time learning the material, the second time, familiar, not familiar? Amai incur mitchil b'Shabbos. Why can't they learn it for the first time on Shabbos? V'amai shonim b'rishon. Why would they review it? Reviewing is okay, but not learning? Ha'ikas char shimur, the Shabbos. This teacher is now expecting payment for babysitting these kids. irrespective of the material that they're learning, whether they're familiar or new material. Either way, it's a problem on Shabbos. Asks the Gemara, 1 second. According to your way of thinking, it's an issue of Schar Shabbos? It's not an issue at all. Because there's something called Havla'ah. As long as it's not visibly Schar for Shabbos employment, if it's sort of included in the weekly salary, that's mutter. Schar Pisuk or Schar Shimur Shabbos, mi Asr. Why would it be Asr? If it's swallowed up, if it's included in your monthly or weekly salary, Havla'ahi, it's included. V'havla mishir shari, that's totally mutter. The Sanya refined in another halach. Haserchas hapoel, lishmar satinek. So he hires a guard to watch over this child. The Ram learns, we're speaking about those young children who were set aside and raised in order to take care of the paraduma process. So they had to be guarded and watched from Tuma. Lishmar Saparo, you have somebody guarding over the Paraduma. Lishmar Sazroim, it's Shemitah time, they need to watch over these, the grain here, which is going to be used for the Oymer and the Shtei Alechem, you have guards standing there. So all these fellows who are doing Shabbos employment, Ein Noisn Schar Shabbos, you can't pay them for Shabbos outright. Lefichach, Im Avdu Ein Chai B'Charuyusim, because they're not getting paid, so if the item they're watching gets damaged, gets lost, they're not responsible. See, unlike a Shemer Sachar who's getting a salary for his watching, that obligates him. It requires him to commit himself to a higher form of guarantee, a higher form of vigilance. But when it comes to a fellow who's doing a volunteer job, he's a Shemer Chinam, not getting paid for his job. He doesn't have to look out for the item to the extent of a Shemer Sach, and therefore if it goes missing, he's patur. Alright, so again, if it's a Shabbos job, which he can't get paid for, a Shemer Chinam. But in some instances, you can pay him. If it's not obvious and evident that he's getting paid for Shabbos work, Shabbos, let's say he was working throughout the week, it's a week. A weekly salary, Sachar Chodesh. He's a monthly employee. Schir Shana, an annual employee. Schir Shavua. He's working for the whole 7-year set. So in this case, you could just throw it in. Noisn Schar Shabbos, you can add the Shabbos pay as well, and put it into the general broader salary. And therefore, since he's getting paid for Shabbos, he's a Shemer Sachar and has higher standards of responsibility. Lefichachim Avdu Chaya B'Charuyusim, if they go missing, he has to pay back. He has to compensate. He's responsible. So the bottom line is, you don't get paid for Shabbos outright, but b'havla, it's mutter. So why would the Brisa not allow a person to teach kids on Shabbos if, in fact, the payment is simply being given b'havla together with the rest of the week's pay? Oh, answers the Gemara, you're right. Apparently, we're not speaking about a concern of Schar Shabbos. Rather, the reason why the Brisa insists on just learning old material rather than introducing new material to these children is as follows. You don't want to overburden them on Shabbos. The reason why we don't teach them new material on Shabbos is as follows. It's unrelated to Schar and Schar Shabbos. Rather, Misham de Yifnu, Ahavasa and de Yinuki. It is to enable the fathers of these boys to be free, to be engaged with the mitzvahs of Shabbos, the mitzvasa de Shabbat. Says the Ran, 5 lines from the top. The Yifnu avoin de Yinuka, the mitzvasa de Shabbat. She'avos hatinoikis, poinen le mitzvahs or le mitzvahs Shabbos, umishtashin im hatinoikis. Typically, Shabbos is the time to spend time with your kids, with your family. And if they'll be overly engaged and overly immersed in learning new material, the parents will shy away, will hesitate to disrupt them, distract them, and they won't be Mekayim the mitzvahs of Shabbos, including spending quality time with your kids. So that's why the Brisa says, don't teach them overwhelming material, don't get them too involved in learning a quick review and that's it. Says the Gemara, same another reason why we don't want to overload these kids on Shabbos. Mishum de b'Shabbata achlan v'shasin. Typically on Shabbos you eat and drink in a manner which is different than the week. V'yakir alein alma, and things get heavy on them. They get a bit cloudy, or from these 2 days of Shabbos, and that makes it difficult for them to focus and concentrate on new material. Kadam Shmuel tells us shinui vest, any change of schedule, any change of routine. Tchilas cholim me'ayim has its initial effects on the internal system of a person. So bottom line is, the Bryce is not speaking about an issue of schar, of payment. It's just a good set of recommendations for the benefit of the kids, chinuch and upbringing. Continues the Gemara. So back to the initial concept of not accepting payment for teaching, except for mikra, for 1 or 2 reasons. Rav learns schar shimur, and Shmuel says schar pisuk tamim. Now, why did one not hold of the other is reason? Ulamad amar schar pisuk tamim. Rabbi Yehuda, who explained the reason is the tamim. My time amar schar shimur. Why didn't he agree with Rav that the babysitting aspect is sufficient reason to accept payment? Because Rabbi Yehuda figures, Banais kiba mika boy and shimur. Boys have to be looked after to make sure they don't go out and make trouble. But girls, they're more timid. The chances are they're sitting obediently. They're not running around. You don't need to actually exert much effort safeguarding their well-being if they're in a classroom setting. So I understand why you can't teach the katan, the boy chumash, because you're foregoing pay what you're entitled to. But why would the Mishnah not allow us to do it for the girls? Right? And the Mishnah seems to include boys and girls in the same boat. We're not differentiating. So a boy, I understand you can't teach him because you're saving him that expense. But the bonis, they're not paying you for babysitting in any case, so it's not considered an hana of moment. So that's why Rabbi Yehuda didn't go along with Rav's approach to the Mishnah. Now Rav, who learned the basis for payment here is the shimur aspect. My time amar schar pisuk tamim. Why didn't he learn like Rabbi Yehuda? The entitlement is because of the tamim that you're teaching the kid. Because Rav holds you're not allowed to take payment even for a tamim. Savar pisuk tamim da'iraisahu. Rav holds even the tune associated with the psukim in the Torah comes straight from our Torah. It's not invented by the Rabbanan, and therefore it's part and parcel of the Torah material for which you cannot accept payment. Omar Rav Chanan, Omar Rav, right? Quotes Rav. Then in fact, ta'amim amanat Torah. And apparently Rabbi Yehuda holds it to Rabbanan. So Rav tells us like this: My dichsiv, how do we learn the pasuk in Nehemiah, which reads as follows: Vayikru basefer b'Torah selakim mefoyrosh v'soim sechel vayavinu b'mikra. So we're covering all aspects of Torah. What are these various elements of Torah? Vayikru b'sefer Torah selakim. What is that? It's a mikra. It's a standard text of the Chumash. What does mefoyrosh mean? The enhancement? Is that targum? That's the targum that we have. What is v'soim sechel? Ilu psukim. To know where to cut the psukim. Vayavinu b'mikra. What is that? It's a pisuk tamim. These are the tunes. So apparently this is part of the actual Torah, rather than something invented by the Chacham. That's Rav's Shita. V'amrilo, some learn differently. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Elu ha'maseiris. Vayavinu b'mikra is not a reference to tamim. That's midrabanan. Rather, it's a reference to the traditional, deviations that we find in the Chumash, whether it's the kri and the ksiv, or the psukim, the words that are actually, the Rush says it's chaseris and yiseris. Yeah, it's to know which words are meant to have the vav, which are meant to have no vav, etc. So bottom line is, according to Rav, schar pisuk tamim is not allowed because tamim is the deraisa, whereas Rabbi Yehuda holds it to rabbanon, for which a person is entitled to take pay. So back to the Mishnah, teaching a mudar hana Torah shebal peh would be mutter because there's no pay for that. Torah shebechsav would be aser for one of two reasons, according to Rav, not because of the Torah. It's because you're watching over this kid who's learning the Chumash. Typically, it's the child learning Chumash, so it's only pertaining to a child. The heter is only because you're looking after that boy, and therefore, giving him that free lesson without accepting payment is considered hana, which is aser. Whereas according to Rabbi Yehuda, the reason is because of the tamim that you're teaching him, for which you can accept payment, and foregoing pay is considered hana. Okay, on the topic of the Mesayros, Amar Yitzchak Mikra Seifrim, the way to read the Psukim, the Nekudos and all that, which were taught us by the Chachamim, and the Itur Seifrim, the poetic, so to speak, enhancements to the Psukim. We're going to see soon in a minute different examples of Itur Seifrim, Vikarian V'Loi Kesivan, and all those instances where the actual word is not written, but we read it as though it's written there. Uksivim V'Loi, the other way around, we have sometimes words that are written but are sort of not read, ignored. All these various elements in the Torah are halacha l'Moshe Sinai, brought down from Moshe from Sinai. Explains the Gemara. Mikra Seifrim, what is that? Eretz, Shemayim, and Mitzrayim. The Ran learns the word Eretz can be pronounced Eretz or Aretz with a kametz, depending on where in a pasuk it is situated. At the end of a statement, it's Aretz. In the middle, it's Eretz. So these pronunciations were taught to us by the Seifrim. Another way to describe the Chacham. They're called Seifrim because they're experts in word count. They knew all the words and letters of the Torah. So they taught us these formulas. Shamayim, Mitzrayim. If you read it as spelled, it can be Shamim, Mitzrim. The Chachamim taught us that the proper pronunciation is Shamayim, Mitzrayim, as though there's an extra letter, an aleph in there. So these are examples of Mikra Seifrim, proper pronunciations taught us by the Seifrim, by the Chachamim, sourced from Moshe Sinai. The next category is Itur Seifrim, words that are sort of inserted for their poetic, flair. Achar Tavaru. First example is by Avram Avinu with the Malachim. Have your meal, and I could have just said Sada Libchem V'Tavaru, and then move on. Continue on your way. So put the word Achar in there, give it an extra Tiferes Haloshin, says the Ran. That a little poetic flair. Achar Telech, Achar Tiasif. We have the pasuk Kidmu Sharem Achar Noignim. Instead of just Kidmu Sharem Noignim, it says Achar Noignim. That's an extra word there. Or Tzidkascha Kihare Kael, the letter Chaf is extra. Just as it says Mishvatecha Tihaim Rabba, could have said Tzidkascha Hare Kael. The extra letter Chaf is just Tiferes Haloshin. Now we have a list of Karyan V'Loi Ksivan, words throughout Tanakh which are read even though they're not actually recorded in the text itself. Pros de Belechtai, the word pros in a pasuk and Shmuel, which has the word Belechtai. The word Ish, de Kasher Yishal Ish Bar Lekim. This is another pasuk in Shmuel with the words Kasher Yishal Bar Lekim, and the word Ish is read even though you don't see it in the actual text. The word Boim in a pasuk of the Nivnasa, the word La in the pasuk of Lafleta, the word Es in the pasuk of Hugad. The word Elai, this is in Rus, in the pasuk the Hagorin, the word Elai, the Hasurim. All these are Halein, all these are Karyan like Sivan, read but not recorded. Then we have the other way. Kasvan V'Loi, words that are actually in the text but sort of ignored, not read. Of course, these things are the secrets of Torah, Sisrei Torah. You have the word Na in a pasuk the Yislach, which is in Melachim Beis. You have Zois in the word Hamitz, in the pasuk of the Hamitzvah. You have Yidroich in the pasuk that has the Hadoireich. You have Chamesh, the word Chamesh, in the pasuk that has the Pas Negev. You have the pasuk, the word Im. This is actually in Rus once again, in a pasuk which has the Chigoyel. So all these Halein, all these that we mentioned, Kasvan V'Lekarion, are recorded but not read. It's interesting that the Vilna Gaon on the side brings another couple examples. The Ran actually mentioned that there are more that are not brought here, and the Hagoyis Agroaz Mitzayin 3 more examples of the word im, throughout Tanakh, which are written but not read. And the Maharal writes, the reason why the Gemara did not include them in the list is because these are deep concepts, it's Sisrei Torah, right? And every one of these examples here represent another facet of the secrets of Torah. And once we already have an example of a missing im, which is based on a certain, deep principle, we don't need to list the other additional ims that follow, in the same path, that are based on the same underlying principle for the missing im. Interesting. Amar of Achbar Ada b'Ma'arav in Eretz Yisrael pasken l'hadein psuka l'tlosa psukim. They took the following pasuk and split into 3 because there are 3 different elements unrelated to each other included in the same pasuk. So they had a tradition to split into 3. Which pasuk? This is before Matan Torah. Vayomer Hashem Moshe hinei anochi ba elecha ba'avanan. I'm coming to you in a cloud, and the pasuk continues there. Ba'avur yishma b'dabri imach. That's a second aspect the Klal Yisrael will listen to, and we have a third aspect, which is Vayagid Moshe divrei Amal Hashem, which is totally unrelated to the previous 2 aspects. So they took the pasuk and sort of split it into 3 separate pasuk. Okay, what do we learn today? A mother may not benefit his mudar. What about teaching him Torah free of charge? Medrash, halachos, v'agados, that's okay, because he's not meant to accept payment for these services regardless. And the actual Torah, well, it's a mitzvah. Mitzvah is lav lahanos nitnu. It's a spiritual experience which is not addressed by the Isser Neder. Not included in Isser Neder. What about Mikra? The Mishnah allows it. Why? Says Rav, typically we're speaking about a young child who needs to be looked after to ensure his physical and spiritual safety. Schar shimur you can take. It's unrelated to the Torah at hand. And foregoing that salary constitutes giving him something. That's usr, for a mudar hanoah. Rabbi Yehuda says it's the tamim, the tunes that he's teaching him. For that he can accept payment, because as Rabbi Yehuda tells us in Amud Beis, that's midrabanan. It's not part and parcel of the actual Torah, and for that payment is allowed to be taken. Whereas Rav considers that part of the actual Deiraisa, for which payment is asr. We learned about schar Shabbos, which cannot be taken in a pronounced way, but it could be done b'havla, included in the broader salary, the weekly, monthly salary. And we concluded with a list of elements that we find in the Torah, which were taught to us halacha meshmer Sinai, pronunciation, the poetic flair of the various expressions, the kri, v'lo ksiv, and iksiv, v'lo kri. May Hashem give us much hatzlacha and Torah and everything else. Hatzlacha Rabbah.